What if everything you've been taught about God is only half the story? Buried beneath centuries of rewritten scriptures and silenced voices lies a forbidden truth: the black gods, divine beings of immense power with African features, ruled the world long before Yahweh. Their legacy, etched in ancient temples and whispered in ancestral traditions, was erased to control humanity's soul. Are you ready to uncover a divine history that could change everything you believe? What if the sacred stories you've clung to your entire life are only half the tale? What if the divine truths you've been taught to revere hide a secret so profound, so revolutionary, that its revelation could shatter the very foundations of your spiritual world? This isn't a fanciful theory or a passing thought, it's a seismic unveiling of a forbidden truth, one buried beneath centuries of rewritten scriptures, demolished temples, and silenced voices. We're diving into the hidden history of the black gods, divine beings of unparalleled power and wisdom who ruled the earth long before Yahweh emerged as the singular deity of monotheism. These dark-skinned deities, worshipped across ancient civilizations from the sun-scorched sands of Africa to the fertile crescents of Mesopotamia, from the majestic pyramids of Egypt to the mystic valleys of the Indus, were not mere myths. They were creators, teachers, and cosmic sovereigns, their images etched in stone and their stories whispered in the hearts of the faithful. Yet, their names were erased, their faces demonized, their legacies buried under a calculated campaign of spiritual and cultural erasure. Why? Because their existence threatened the empires, religions, and power structures that sought to control humanity's soul. Prepare yourself for a journey that will challenge everything you've been taught, ignite a fire in your spirit, and reconnect you to a divine ancestry that pulses through your veins. This isn't about isolated myths or quaint folklore, it's about a profound, interconnected history preserved in ancient papyrus, carved into the walls of sacred temples, and carried forward by the resilient oral traditions of communities that refuse to be silenced. Before the rise of monotheistic religions, before Yahweh was declared the sole God, the world bowed to black gods, divine beings like the Egyptian Neter, the African Orishas, the Sumerian Anunnaki, and even the plural Elohim mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. These were not abstract symbols or poetic metaphors, they were cosmic forces, depicted with African features, ebony skin, wide noses, and curly hair, wielding authority over creation, wisdom, and the elements. They were the architects of humanity's earliest civilizations, teaching agriculture, astronomy, mathematics, and spiritual truths that modern science still struggles to explain. But their legacy was systematically dismantled. Their altars were toppled, their followers branded heretics, their stories rewritten as demonic or dismissed as primitive. Why was their presence so threatening? Because a people who see themselves as descendants of divine kings, as heirs to a celestial lineage, cannot be easily subdued. This is the forbidden truth: the black gods were not forgotten by chance, they were deliberately erased in a spiritual war for dominion over humanity's soul. Let's unravel the evidence, piece by piece, like archaeologists brushing away the dust of centuries. Ancient texts, from the apocryphal Book of Enoch to the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Nag Hammadi Library, reveal a divine council, a celestial assembly where Yahweh himself confronts other gods. Psalm 82 paints a vivid scene: God stands in the congregation of the gods, among the gods, he judges. Yahweh declares, "You are gods, children of the Most High, yet you will die like men." Who were these gods? Why did they need to be challenged? Why were they sentenced to mortality? The answers lie in texts like the Book of Enoch, once revered by early Jewish and Christian communities but later banned as too dangerous. Enoch speaks of the Watchers, or fallen angels, beings of immense wisdom and power, often described with dark skin and commanding presence, who descended to earth to teach humanity forbidden knowledge. They shared secrets of agriculture, metallurgy, astronomy, and spiritual enlightenment, defying a heavenly order that sought to keep humanity in ignorance. In Sumerian texts, gods like Enki, depicted as burnt bronze, with intense eyes, rebelled against their celestial kin to uplift humanity, teaching science, social organization, and healing. In Egypt, Osiris, Isis, Thoth, and Anubis, all portrayed with ebony skin and African features, were divine kings, scribes, and judges, their stories of death and resurrection shaping rituals that predate and parallel later religious archetypes. But the erasure of these black gods was no accident, it was a calculated project of spiritual and political domination. As monotheism rose, empires rewrote history to consolidate power. The Hebrew term Elohim, meaning gods, in the plural, was subtly translated as a singular God to fit a new narrative. Temples were razed, sacred texts burned, and black deities recast as demons or relegated to myth. In Africa, orishas like Oshan, Shango, and Obatala, vibrant, living manifestations of divine forces with African identities, were demonized by colonizers who feared their unifying power. Even the image of divinity was whitened. Jesus, a Middle Eastern man likely with dark skin and curly hair, was transformed into a blue-eyed, blonde figure in European art, his true likeness buried under centuries of cultural revisionism. This wasn't a mistake, it was a deliberate theft of spiritual identity, designed to sever a people from their divine roots and fracture their sense of self. The result was a spiritual wound that lingers to this day, a collective disconnection from a sacred heritage that once empowered entire civilizations. Yet, the truth endures, defiant and unyielding. Archaeological records stand as silent witnesses to this forgotten history. In museums across London, Paris, New York, and Berlin, Egyptian statues of Isis, Osiris, Anubis, and Thoth display unmistakable African traits: dark skin, wide noses, thick lips, braided or coiled hair. These details are rarely highlighted by guides or emphasized in exhibition notes, as if acknowledging them would unravel a carefully curated narrative. Sumerian tablets and Mesopotamian reliefs depict gods with burnt bronze skin, their cosmic authority etched in cuneiform and stone. African oral traditions, preserved through centuries of persecution, slavery, and diaspora, sing of divine ancestors who walked among men, ruling with wisdom and power. The Bantu concept of Nzambi, a black creator god, and the orishas of Candomblé and Umbanda, with their African identities and cosmic roles, testify to a spirituality that predates and transcends modern religion. These are not fantasies, they are tangible proof of a divine lineage that shaped humanity's earliest beliefs. Yet, the truth endures, defiant and unyielding. Archaeological records stand as silent witnesses to this forgotten history. In museums across London, Paris, New York, and Berlin, Egyptian statues of Isis, Osiris, Anubis, and Thoth display unmistakable African traits: dark skin, wide noses, thick lips, braided or coiled hair. These details are rarely highlighted by guides or emphasized in exhibition notes, as if acknowledging them would unravel a carefully curated narrative. Sumerian tablets and Mesopotamian reliefs depict gods with burnt bronze skin, their cosmic authority etched in cuneiform and stone. African oral traditions, preserved through centuries of persecution, slavery, and diaspora, sing of divine ancestors who walked among men, ruling with wisdom and power. The Bantu concept of Nzambi, a black creator god, and the orishas of Candomblé and Umbanda, with their African identities and cosmic roles, testify to a spirituality that predates and transcends modern religion. These are not fantasies, they are tangible proof of a divine lineage that shaped humanity's earliest beliefs. Why does this truth provoke such fear in those who hold power? Because a people who recognize their divine lineage cannot be controlled. When you see your reflection in the gods, your skin, your features, your rhythm, you reclaim a power that no empire, no doctrine, no system can suppress. This journey isn't just about uncovering a hidden history, it's about reclaiming your spiritual birthright. Imagine the shift when you realize the divine isn't a distant, punitive figure perched on a golden throne but a vibrant, living presence reflected in your ancestry, your culture, your very being. Black spirituality doesn't separate body from spirit, heaven from earth, it weaves them together in a sacred dance. It's in the pulse of the drum, the sway of ritual movement, the scent of sacred herbs, the wisdom of the stars. This is a call to awaken, to honor your ancestors, to question the narratives that diminished you and taught you to see yourself as less than divine. Consider the implications. What happens when a black child grows up seeing their skin, their hair, their features in the divine figures of ancient texts and temples? What happens when a people realize their ancestors were not just slaves but priests, kings, astronomers, and pyramid builders? The chains of spiritual servitude begin to break. The imposed guilt, the forced shame, the fractured identity, they dissolve in the light of this reclaimed truth. The Book of Jubilees, another suppressed text, speaks of spiritual beings who guided humanity, only to be rewritten as fallen or dangerous. Gnostic texts from Nag Hammadi describe archons and eons, cosmic rulers with dark skin who shaped the world before Yahweh's rise. These texts were labeled heretical, their truths sealed away, but they survive, whispering of a time when black gods were revered as the first kings, the first priests, the first spiritual legislators. This awakening is about more than knowledge, it's about transformation. It's about feeling the fire of your ancestors stir within you, urging you to reclaim what was stolen. It's about recognizing that the divine isn't confined to a single book, a single face, a single story. God, or the gods, manifest in 1,000 forms, and one of those forms is yours. Your skin, your voice, your rhythm, they are sacred. This is the moment to rebuild your inner altar, not with marble or gold, but with presence, truth, and courage. Light a candle for your ancestors. Listen to the whispers of your intuition. Dance to the rhythm of your heritage. Read the forbidden texts, Enoch, Jubilees, the Nag Hammadi scrolls, and hear the voices of the black gods who were silenced but never destroyed. So, what changes in your faith knowing this? Pause. Breathe deeply. Feel the weight of centuries lifting from your shoulders. This isn't just knowledge, it's a homecoming to your spiritual roots. You're not abandoning your beliefs, you're expanding them, weaving in the vibrant threads of a divine lineage that was hidden from you. The black gods, Osiris, Enki, Thoth, the Orishas, live in your blood, your dreams, your heartbeat. They were the first to challenge heavenly authoritarianism, to bring light to humanity, to sacrifice themselves so you could rise. Their rebellion wasn't a fall, it was a surrender, a gift of love that empowered humanity to see its own divinity. Comment below, I am reclaiming my divine roots. Share how this truth is reshaping your perspective. Have you felt the call of your ancestors in dreams, rituals, or quiet moments? Have you seen their faces in museum statues or ancient texts? Your voice is a spark in this collective awakening, it fuels the fire. Like, subscribe, and join this movement to rewrite humanity's spiritual story. The black gods are rising again, their voices echoing through the ages, and you are part of their return. This is only the beginning. Click the next video to dive deeper into this sacred journey. Together, we'll uncover the marks these gods left on the world, and within you. Conclusion. This journey has peeled back the layers of a hidden truth, revealing the black gods, divine ancestors whose wisdom, power, and presence shaped humanity's earliest civilizations. Their stories, etched in stone and carried in the rhythms of your heritage, were silenced not because they were false, but because they were too liberating. Now, you stand at a crossroads. Will you cling to the narratives that dimmed your divine light, or will you embrace the sacred memory pulsing in your blood? This is more than knowledge, it's a spiritual homecoming. Reconnect with your roots, honor your ancestors, and let the fire of the black gods ignite your soul. Comment, "My faith is coming home," to declare your awakening. Like, subscribe, and click the next video to deepen this sacred journey. Together, we're rewriting humanity's spiritual story, and you are the key to its resurrection.